How did you become the cinematographer on Tron?
I have no idea. I went for a meeting with the director Steve Lisberger at the Disney Studios. I'm not quite sure how I got that meeting or how it was set up, but I think it was from my other friends in the business that recommended me. But then I got into the office, and it was almost like I had the job before I even began the interview. So I have no recollection of being interviewed for the job. It was just like, well, this is what we're doing, and let's go. Let's get it together and do it. So there wasn't much of an audition process there, but there again, at that movie, because of its technical challenges, there were they were, I don't think they were green lit totally when I took my meeting and got involved in it. So there were some screen tests and different proofs of concept that Disney wanted before the show moved forward. And so I was involved on those, and so slowly, everything came together, and we got greenlit. This got greenlit, and that got greenlit, and then finally we were making the movie. So it was a process.
How did it work with the cinematography and then the effects? Like, how was that, especially in the early '80s?
Well, there were three aspects of Tron. There was the live action, and then there was the CG animation. And the first CG animation ever used on a movie. And then there was stuff that was created to be in the cyberspace electronic world, footage that was based on live action. Now that live action was, everybody was wearing like black and white suits, and it was shot in 70 millimeter, and they took every frame that we shot and they blew it up onto a 16-inch wide Kodalith. And then those were put under the animation stand and shot with colored gels and diffusion filters. And so it became an animation process, and there were a lot of things that we had to do to make sure that when the black and white photography was blown up onto these high contrast cells, that they would work in the animation process. And mostly to do with having very, very sharp frames, because there's something called motion blur in photography, which is when something moves in front of a motion picture camera, things blur. And so, for instance, if they had a line on their suit and they were in motion, if that line wasn't perfectly sharp, it would just disappear from the Kodalith negative. So we had to have infinite depth of field. We had to have a very short shutter, which meant that every image was like perfectly sharp, And all that required a tremendous amount of light, and the fastest film that we could use, and the fastest. The other thing, to create that depth of field, we needed to shoot at a very high aperture. So a lot of the stuff was shot around f8 and f16, f11, which required a tremendous amount of light. And in fact, Burbank Water and Power called the studio twice during our production and said, "You're using too much electricity. We're going to shut you down if you don't use a little bit less." So,
oh wow,
we were welding with light on that movie.
So they saw the usage from wherever they
absolutely
for the meter. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It peaked, and they could tell where it was coming from. So.
How long was the actual shooting of the film? Not these other processes, but.
I think Tron. I think we shot for 69 days, and I think the regular live action schedule because we shot up in Lawrence Livermore Labs up there at the Shiva laser lab, and then we shot sets on stage. So I think that was about 25 days, all that kind of live action, and the rest was this hybrid black and white photography that was later then going to be treated on the animation stand as special effects footage. You know?
Do you remember what it was like to see the premiere, to attend it?
The Tron premiere. No, I remember they had a black and white ball where I guess the women wore white and the men wore black, and it was at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and that was a pretty fun event. I don't remember the premiere of Tron. That's terrible.
Okay, well maybe it was a good night then.
Maybe a lot of people did. No, because the story of Tron is strange because it was a picture that Disney had hyped a lot, and then somebody came out in the Wall Street Journal and said, "This is not the movie that's going to save the Disney studio," and their stock dropped like 2.25 points, and then there was the premiere of the movie, and 1 week later, E.T. came out. So it really kind of got eclipsed. And then somebody else at the studio said, okay, we don't want this, we want to take this out of distribution because we want to release the DVD at Christmas, you know. So when it came out, I don't think it wasn't really that successful, but after the summer, it started to pick up its own pace, you know, and then suddenly they cut it off to do DVD sales. So, but now it's a classic, so it doesn't really make any difference now.
Were those the big video discs that you would kind of put in?
Laserdisc, yes.
I remember.
Yeah.
Watched many movies.
But also videotape, I think, as well.
VHS.
Yeah, VHS tapes.
So how was that to probably be so thrilled to work on something that's groundbreaking? You put so many days in, almost 70 days of shooting time, and then additional in post or whatever. And then to have like a well-respected publication just come and just, for whatever the agenda, maybe there wasn't any, but just kind of crush it.
Well, it must have been a lot worse for Steven Lisberger than for me, you know, my work had been over for a long time because obviously there was a live action schedule that I was involved in, but the whole post schedule was about a year. So we're talking about a project that I finished a year beforehand before it was premiered. So I do remember the first time I saw the movie was at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, and it was supposedly projected in 70 millimeter. And the projections had it out of focus for the whole show.
Oh, no.
And I was trying to go back and say, it's a lot sharper, it's a lot better than this, you know. But that's something you get used to, is like your distribution of your product is not always at the quality that you shot the movie at. But now with digital, all that's kind of going away, and I think digital media is a lot more. I think it's a lot. The chances of you seeing the way it was shot are a lot better in the digital world than having a print at a road show at a theater, you know, and with a projector bulb that the guy doesn't want to run it at full voltage because the bulb will last a little bit longer, you know. So yes, I embrace the digital age. You know.